Welcome to the Continue Creating Show, the #1 show to help inspire you to be creative and follow your passion. On today's show, I have special guest, YouTube content creator and music creator, Zane from Simple Green Tech. Let's get into it. Zane, how are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on here. Big fan of your channel, as you know.
Awesome, man. It's great to have you on here. I know we've messaged each other a few times, but we haven't actually had a chance to talk to each other. So it's good to have you on the show today. It's going to be good to have a conversation. So yeah, really happy to have you on the show. So before we get into anything too crazy here, I just want to ask you, like, you have a YouTube channel and you do music. You have some experience with radio. How did you come up with your name, Simple Green Tech, for your YouTube channel?
I think I went a little complicated with it. It's the green in it is like, you know, when you say somebody's green, like they're new to something, that's kind of where the green came from. And so it's supposed to be simple to get these new people into music production, audio production, that sort of thing. But I think that the name is just sort of complicated, but now I'm stuck with it and it's all right. I like the color green too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't even put that together, but that makes sense. Simple Green Tech. So, how long have you been doing the YouTube thing?
I think it's just over 2 years now.
Okay, and then clearly you have some experience with music and music production, obviously, because your videos for a couple years have been, pretty detailed in that. So how long have you been doing music?
Oh, geez. Forever. I don't know. Since I was a teen anyway, started recording on cassette tape players and figuring out how to do multi-track recording with, a 2 cassette, like ghetto blaster. And that was our start in recording. And then it just, technology caught up and I've just always been into it.
Awesome. So now I know you play guitar, right? So when did you start playing instruments?
I don't know, probably early teens was when I really got serious about it. My dad bought me a guitar when I was really young, probably 7 years old. And I was never really serious about it. But then as I became a teen, I'm always kind of interested in music. I picked up the guitar more seriously and started learning. And my dad was a guitar teacher, so that helped as well.
Sweet. What kind of guitar did you have when you first started?
Oh, geez. I don't remember the actual make. It was like some, I don't know, Asian made guitar, but it was like a Les Paul knockoff is what it was.
Awesome. And what was some of the first songs that you learned how to play? Like, what were your early influences?
Stairway to Heaven, of course, was one of the very first. What else? I'm trying to think of early Nirvana stuff, of course. That was easy to play and it was big at the time. So Nirvana, a lot of their stuff, and Ramones stuff, because again, it was easy to play and it was stuff I liked.
I play guitar as well. And some of the early stuff I learned was Nirvana as well. And I had a friend that we would actually like just play like we played the entire Nirvana. I think you have the record behind you there, the whole
yeah.
Nirvana album, like from beginning to end. We would just play albums. And so, yeah, that was always fun. It's always a good way to learn how to play your instrument, is learning other people's songs and then getting familiar to play with people. And even if you cover songs and record it, you get familiar with the process. So it's always fun to do. Now, do you play multiple instruments or do you just play the guitar? Or
guitar is like my main instrument, but of course, I have the MIDI keyboard, so I play synth stuff on there. I'm not as good with that, but I'm still picking it up and going with it. Just started with my EP that I'm releasing, I got a new bass guitar. You've seen that, the pictures of it, and been really getting into playing bass guitar. It's so much different than electric guitar, like six string. It's so much different, and I'm really, really enjoying bass guitar at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, the bass is fun. Uh, Now, when you play the bass guitar or you play instruments in general, do you use a lot of theory, or you're just playing some chord, like power chords and riffing, or like how deep do you go into theory with that?
I really don't go too deep into theory. I usually look up the like chord progressions. This chord's going to go good with this chord and that sort of thing. That's about as deep into theory as I get. Is just if I'm searching for the next chord, I just look at some chord progressions, see where I should go with it.
All right, all right. Yeah, that's cool, man. So like when you first started, like how long did it take for you to get comfortable like with the guitar? Probably pretty quick, right? Because you had at least
The
had some kind
comfort,
of
yeah,
influence.
yeah, the comfort level came pretty quick. But I wasn't really good, but I was comfortable playing
Well,
it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a, I'm not really good. I'm still not good, but you
that's
can,
the way I think.
but it's still like you could still play music and not be good.
Yeah,
That's the beauty of
exactly.
it. Yeah, man. And so now when did you like, so you had your tapes that you were recording onto and you
Yeah.
started playing guitar, like, so it seems like you had like an interest in like kind of music and putting songs together, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm putting together when you had the double decker tape deck or whatever. Like, so when did you start putting those together and start music production per se?
I think I was 13. It was grade 8. Me and this other guy, we had just moved to this little small farm town. We were both city kids. We both moved to this farm town at the same time, and we connected, and we were both into music. And I had like all the instruments. Like my dad gave me a drum set, I had bass guitar, guitars. Like I had a lot of stuff at the time. So then we started talking, hey, let's make some music. So we both didn't know how to play, and we just started, strumming some stuff and coming up with sounds that we thought sounded good together, and started making music, recording it on tape.
Awesome. So how did those early recordings do? Like, was there a microphone like built into your tape deck, or did you have a microphone you plugged in? Or
No, there was a microphone just part of the tape
yeah,
deck. Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
awesome. That, I mean,
It was
now
like an 80s ghetto.
we got freaking phones and stuff, but
Yeah,
back at that time, man, that's cool, man. Because having the tape deck, you just put your tape in there, hit record on there. That's how I did some of my early recordings as well.
yeah,
That's always a good time,
yeah. I just had this little, it was like a 5-watt acoustic guitar amplifier, and we used to plug like the bass, the guitar, and the microphone into this thing. It had 3 inputs on it, so we would plug everything into this thing. It was fun. It was fun
Nice.
that yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So, do you want to talk about like maybe some of the things that you got going on now? I know you've been recording some music.
Yeah.
So are you in any bands now currently?
Not in a band with like other people, but like I've got my own, what I call a band, and I am working on the EP for that, which should hopefully be released very soon. I've been working on that forever, and pretty excited about that. The band name is Silver Rocket Surfers, and it's aimed to be like a garage punk sort of really raw sounding band, which is kind of different than other things that I've done in the past. I really wanted like kind of no electronic sounds to this band. Just want it to be rock.
Nice. So it's just that raw, like rock sound. I heard one of the songs and it had that raw, like, yeah, you could hear all the actual instruments. It was
Yeah.
really, really good sound. So when is that going to be released? Do you have a
This
release
coming
date?
week.
Oh, okay.
The release date was originally October 6th. That's coming on, so it's this week. Probably Tuesday or Thursday this coming week.
So it sounds like you're done. You pretty much have everything uploaded, the album art and everything. You just got to release it, put it out there, huh?
Yep.
So are you going to do any music videos or anything like that for it?
I've thought about that. I don't know. I might do it. I have done it with like other projects that I was part of in the past. And, it takes time to do those, but it is something, obviously being on YouTube, it's something that I like doing. So I probably will get into that eventually. But I think you get the topic channel when you upload now. So you do get your album art with the song on YouTube anyway. So that's good.
Yeah, and that's something to be aware of. Some people don't realize that when they upload to YouTube music, it's really uploading it to YouTube itself as so people could still find your music on YouTube. But yeah, it's just one of those little details that people don't realize. That's cool. Are you going to do any like hard presses of it, or is it just strictly a digital?
I'm probably like, you see the albums up on the wall, so I'm probably going to get at least one done. I've been thinking of doing two up just to have two. And that's about it for this one. I've already got like so many other songs written and ready to roll. So I just want to get this over and done with and start working on the next EP, or it might even be a full length album. I just want to at least work on the next single first. And then that one I might think about getting a little more serious with. I want to see how this does, see if there's interest in it, of course, first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now how do you go about recording yourself? I see some equipment there. You got it looks like some kind of analog limiter or something there. Some kind of
preamp.
Yeah.
That's a 1176 style compressor. Also,
okay.
Yes, it's a limiter compressor. And then over here, I have a 1073 style mic preamp, and then there's a little compressor underneath that as well. Those are golden age audio stuff. The little compressor there, it's awesome on the bass guitar. So that's what it's pretty much used for only.
So I see you like on your YouTube channel, you got a lot of, and if you're listening or watching this, check out Simple Green Tech YouTube channel, but there's a lot of digital plugins and stuff that you use on that channel. Now, like why, obviously you have analog stuff too. So why would you have both? Or like, do you prefer one or the other? Or can you talk about that?
Just got into the analog stuff. Like this stuff is pretty new to me. And I just wanted to try it out, especially for this EP, because I wanted it to be raw rock and I wanted it to be kind of like old rock. And that's kind of why I got it. But I still use plugins like crazy because I only have the 2 units and these are mono units, so they can only cover one source at a time. But yeah, I use a ton of plugins. I'm big into plugins.
Awesome. So what else what do you have those running into? So you would put your bass, you would plug your bass into you said you use the bass on that?
Yeah. So the bass, when I'm recording bass, I record right into the mic preamp. There's a DI on it as well.
Okay.
So you can plug it into the front, and then I use a little bit of that compressor just as I'm tracking the bass. It's not a whole lot, just a little. And then after, when I'm doing the mixing, I insert that onto the bass channel, and that's when I get a little more aggressive with that compressor. And I'm really, really happy with that. Then this one over here is pretty much just for my voice. That's all I use that one for.
All right. Now, clearly, it looks like you have, maybe not so clearly if you're listening to this, but looks like there's an audio interface in the background as well. Can you speak about that audio interface? What kind of audio interface do you use?
That's the Audient ID44, and it's got 4 analog inputs and then 4 analog outputs, but there's also the option to link in some more inputs and outputs. You can have up to 44, I think, just with the optical link. I haven't got there yet, but I do have, everything's taken up right now, so I may need to expand it a little bit. And that's why I went with that audio interface, because you can expand with it. Yeah.
That's still a decent amount. Like if it's you recording, yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But then you have that option later on. Like if you had like a band, like a stand-in band, you could like record, some drums, like a kit. Yeah. You can expand on that. That's a good idea. I guess when you're buying equipment to kind of look ahead a little bit, if you have the ability to spend that money. Cause I don't think that's a cheap interface. As far, if you're just starting out, you only got like, maybe $150 to spend. I don't think that would fit into that price point.
No, I mean, that's not my first interface. I've got a stack of cheapy ones that still, I miss them kind of working with. I really like working with cheaper gear. I like working with free plugins and just seeing what I can create with, the least amount of money spent. So I have the Behringer UM2, which is probably the cheapest audio interface that you can get for music production. And I'm going to be doing a video with that, creating a song, just recording it through that interface using a $18 microphone. And that's going to be fun. For me, I really love the challenge of just making music with cheap gear. So, yes, I have that nice audio interface now, but, I've been making music with cheap gear forever.
Right. And, that's cool, man. Cause I know a lot of you covered that, some Behringer stuff on your channel and stuff. And I think that's a really good resource for people to have. If you're just starting out, you don't want to spend a lot of money. I think that Behringer interface, it's under $100. The
UM2 I bought, now this was a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was $25 Canadian at Best Buy. And it's gone up in price now because of the pandemic has driven everything up in price. But I think it's still around $60. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, still $60. That's obviously if you're not working and stuff, that could any kind of money to come up with could be difficult. But for $60, you could still get started, with at least some kind of interface to record. And it's really good that that's available for people.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome that you provide resources. So when people actually buy something like that, they have like, okay, how do you set up the drivers and stuff like that? Yeah. I think that's really cool about your channel, that you get into that stuff.
That's the very first video on my channel, was setting up the drivers for that audio interface. And that video still does extremely well to this date. I never imagined it would do what it's done.
That's awesome, man. The simplest stuff, man. And I'm sure you've helped, hundreds and thousands of people with that one video. And apparently you didn't even expect it to be like that, but you're able to help so many people with just that simple, just how do you set up the drivers? Because when you're just first starting out, all this stuff could be like overwhelming. It could be really overwhelming. I'm sure whenever you had a tape deck and you put a tape in there and you hit record on it, it took a little time to figure it out. But once you figured it out, you're like, okay, we can record our whole band now.
Oh, yeah.
But with the computer, I think it adds extra steps. You can't just put a tape in your audio interface and hit record. You got to install stuff, set it up, set the level. You got to do all this extra stuff to get going. Now, once you get your stuff going and set up, you can it's pretty simple to plug in and start recording, assuming your computer's working fine.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as your computer's fine and you can just plug in, start recording. There's a learning curve for everything. So once you get over the little bit of learning curve, it's pretty easy to just start recording. The hard part is coming up with the song ideas that are good enough to record. Like that's the hardest part right there.
Right. So, how do you come up with your song ideas? Like, you just get an idea. Like, what is your process when you're like, okay, I want to make a song? Do you say, okay, I'm going to make a song and then come up with an idea, or you just get ideas? How does that work for you?
Honestly, they just sort of hit me. Is the strangest thing. I'll just be sitting, and then all of a sudden, the full song comes to me. Everything, the melody, the lyrics, kind of the whole production I plan out in my head. And then, so what I do is I always have my phone on me. Obviously everybody does. I have Microsoft OneNote, and I have in there all my songs in there. That's where I work on my music. And then as I start producing the music, I write down like all of the chords that are in it, any of the settings for the hardware gear. I'll take a picture of it and then put that in there so I can remember what the settings were I used. Like on the guitar pedals as well, I'll put that in there. So like Microsoft OneNote is like, for me, the biggest musical tool I have, and it doesn't make music.
Okay, that's interesting. So you were able to put pictures right into OneNote as well?
Yeah. You put pictures into OneNote. The other cool thing is if you get the melody in your head, you can record, like you can just hum into it. Like let's say the melody is like, record that, and you record your audio directly in there. And then, later on when you get back in your studio, oh yeah, I have that song idea. How did that go? My memory isn't the greatest. So this thing, OneNote, is awesome for me just because it allows me to remember what I've come up with.
That's cool, man. It's like OneNote is just like a kind of like a sketch pad.
Yes.
It's like, I didn't even know you could do all that. I've never used OneNote, so I didn't know you could actually put pictures in there and audio in there.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. You can scribble in it too if you really want. There's so much you can do with it. I use it for all my YouTube videos as well. That's where I script out all my ideas for the videos. Like it's my life in OneNote. It's my whole memory.
That's good. I want to have to remember that, because organization can be a challenge.
Yes.
And then especially if you're dealing with a lot of stuff, like if you're a one-man show, you got to remember everything. And like whenever I was in bands, like we had a drummer, bassist, singer, guitar players.
Yeah.
We would like take paper, just pen and paper, and we would write, intro, verse, chorus. Like we would write the notes down. So we're on the same page, but you could kind of do that with OneNote now, and you could take that anywhere and make backups. And
and you can access it on your computer, your laptop, your tablet, pretty much anywhere. Like if you don't have to worry about forgetting your notebook. But yeah, I remember back in the day writing everything down, but you had one copy, and then like sometimes that one copy was with the other band member, and it's like, oh, I wish I had that right now. But with this, like you can share your stuff. So if you do have a band, you can share this so they can only access certain parts of your OneNote, and then other people can collaborate on it. It's crazy. It's awesome for making music. In my opinion, OneNote is awesome for music making.
Let's see. So, yeah, I didn't even think we were going to start talking about OneNote.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's one of those things. I start talking about music making, and then I bring up OneNote. Yeah. But it's my biggest tool for like songwriting, because the most important part of the song is like the melody and your lyrics. If you have lyrics in your music, then the lyrics are, the most important. But the melody, no matter what kind of music you're making, you're probably going to have a melody of some sort, if it's with a synth, a piano, or something. And you can hum that into OneNote.
Once you got it into OneNote, like you're out and about and you're like, okay, I'm going to write this stuff. You got the idea in OneNote. Then what, you just come to your studio and then to start plugging stuff in and playing. Like, what do you start with? Do you start with the drums, the bass, or the melody? Like, how do you?
Usually I start with the bass guitar just to lay that down. It's always a scratch bass, just, I know it's not going to be the final bass, but let's get this bass guitar in there so I have something to build off of. And then I'll usually throw in just a real basic drum beat, just so I have a beat in there that's not just the metronome. And then I'll start putting the guitar. And then the last is always the vocal. I always do that last.
Nice. And then once you got everything recorded, I assume then you like mix everything yourself and master everything yourself. You don't send it to anybody.
No, I've been thinking about that, but I don't know. I like to try and do it all myself. I'm not going to get better at it if I'm not doing it myself. So, I'm not the best mixer. I wouldn't even consider myself a masterer, but when you're a one-man show, you are the mixer and the master guy. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then like what resources, like are you self-taught? Did you teach everything yourself about music production? Did you take any classes, any books or anything like that?
Just really self-taught, but I read Computer Music Magazine, and back in the day, I think it was called Future Music. Just taking tutorials and just play around with the stuff constantly to get ideas and work better and better at what I do. So I was going to go to school for music production at a very good music production school here in Ontario, Canada, where I live. It was very expensive, so I didn't go. And what I thought as a secondary plan, I thought, well, in radio, they produce stuff. They produce commercials and jingles and that sort of thing. Maybe I'll go to school for radio, and then I can learn a little bit about, music or production a bit. So I did. I went to school for radio and worked in radio for 12 years or more now. And I've learned a lot about production through that. It's not really the same as music production, but a lot of the fundamentals are the same.
All right. So like, interesting. So when you work with radio, like I'm just curious. I don't really know much about radio. So like what is kind of similar between the two of them?
You got compression, EQ, you got to use those.
Okay.
You're working with, typically in radio, you're working with music beds. So that's similar to working with like a loop or a sample, and you're chopping it up and kind of splicing it together, matching beats and that sort of thing. So it's a lot like music production, but you're producing a commercial, typically 30 seconds in length.
All right. Interesting. So you use compression, EQ and stuff, but I imagine the print, like just some of the details on like how you would use EQ would probably be different.
Yeah. Typically you're using the EQ. You're rolling off the lows, like 8 hertz roll off always. But then depending on the voice, if you're recording somebody else's voice, they might need to, brighten up their voice a little bit. So you add some presence through EQ, or maybe you need to take something down out of the highs. It all depends. So it's kind of the same, but obviously you're not using all your EQ. Like, how to EQ a snare is very different than how to EQ a voice for a commercial. So it is different that way, but, learning through one thing, it leads to more.
Right. Yeah. Because you still have a better understanding of what these elements are and how you would use them. Did you use like computers and stuff? Like you still use for radio stuff? Yeah.
Adobe Audition is like the biggest program in the radio world. And I use that like every day. I mean, I really enjoy it for simple work like that. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the greatest for music work anymore because they took away MIDI capabilities quite a while ago now. It used to be a great music DAW, but once they took away those MIDI capabilities, it's not as good anymore.
Now, is that, you remember Cool Edit?
Yes, that's what it is.
Is that Cool Edit turned into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool Edit Pro.
I remember that. Like I had Cool Edit back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Cool Edit Pro. But
I think it was like version 1.5, I think, is when it became Adobe Audition. It was Adobe Audition 1.5, which was basically the exact same program as Cool Edit Pro. and it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was one of the first programs I used in music. So yeah, it's a cool program. Clearly they did develop it. Like when I used it, they didn't have any MIDI capabilities. Like when it came out, right? So they added it and then took it away.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Like, why
so
would you
weird.
take it away?
I don't know. Like there's versions. So if you go back, you can find versions that still had MIDI, and then they stopped, and then they brought it back. Yeah, it's strange, but I don't get why they did that.
Interesting.
And it was once it became 64-bit, I think that's when they really dropped the MIDI. So it almost became useless for me because you got to work in 64-bit now.
Okay. So what did you move on from there? Like, so when you do music, you're not using Adobe Audition. What are you using for your music production?
For years, I used Pro Tools, but then that got kind of expensive. I didn't like the subscription model. And I'm always interested in trying something new. And then I moved to Reaper, which was very similar to Pro Tools. And then I got into Traction Waveform just because it came with that little Behringer audio interface, and I was curious about it. And then I really liked it. So that's actually what I've been using lately is Traction Waveform. I've been using that for about 2 years now, and I really enjoy it. The workflow, the speed it just allows you to focus on making music. It's probably not the greatest for somebody who's like a music producer and maybe that's all they do, but for a musician to record music and then mix it and everything, it allows me to just focus on making music.
Awesome. Is that what you have in the background there? I think I see.
Yes. Yeah. That's I saw it in the background.
See, yeah, that's interesting because a lot of these softwares I've actually installed before and I tested them out and I kind of recognize that one. And, but I mean, it's been years since I installed that. It's been around for a while, that software.
Yeah. Yeah, this is version 11 now. And then before this, they had Traction. Like they went in the T series, which went up to T7, and that's a decent little DAW as well. But the Waveform is a big upgrade over the T series.
Okay,
and you can get it free. Like they have Waveform free, which is totally unlocked. You just don't get some of the instruments that come with the Pro version, and there's a couple of little features that you don't need that aren't included. They're nice features to have. They're not absolutely needed for making music.
So that could, it came with your interface. So that's a good combination because you got an inexpensive interface and then you got a free software to record right into. Like that's great.
Yeah, it's free, like unlimited software. Like a lot of interfaces now come with Ableton Live Lite. But I mean, you're limited to 8 tracks with that. So this was nice because it's an unlimited DAW. I can do what I want.
And you could do MIDI in there as well, like MIDI instruments.
Oh, yep. Yeah, nice. I don't do so much MIDI for my music, but I do like as for fun. I like to create like little horror theme songs just for fun. I don't release them or anything, and I use the MIDI in there for that quite a bit.
I mean, I think that's just so great that as long as you have like a computer that runs and it's able to handle it, that you could just get that free software, inexpensive interfaces, and just start recording like that, man.
Yes.
What a great era in music.
It really is. And like with this whole pandemic thing, we should be hearing a lot of great music coming out because people have the time to make the music, and it's so accessible to make music now. It's crazy. You can even make your music on your iPhone or your tablet if you really wanted to.
For sure. I know some people use that exclusively, like their iPad. I know Pete Johns, Studio Live Today YouTube channel. He does GarageBand exclusively pretty much. And he releases EPs and albums all the time. And it's just amazing that you could do all that. And because they can, even your iPad, you can plug audio interfaces into your iPad.
Yeah.
So that's phenomenal that you could do all that right there. So what is your EP called anyway? I don't know if I asked you that.
No, I haven't really announced the name, but sure. It's called Fell in Love with an Alien.
An alien, huh? Fell in love with an alien.
Yes.
So, Silver Rocket Surfers.
Yep. That's the name of the band, and the EP is called Fell in Love with an Alien.
All right. So I'll have to check that out. Is the lyrical
Yes.
content related to that name at all? Or is it
Oh,
just,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, the one song.
It's like got you.
Yep.
So you're telling a story with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's inspired by kind of EP or ET inspired, but if ET were a hotter female alien, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't mention any genders or anything, so it could be whatever gender,
Right.
gender neutral. It's an alien.
It's an alien.
Yeah.
Question for you. Somebody is just starting getting into like producing music and recording music, or if they've maybe been into it a little bit, but they just need a little bit of advice. What is like one piece of advice that you could get somebody or give somebody who's just starting out in music production?
Okay. Assuming they're starting out maybe in computer recording, like recording on a computer, I would say download 2 or 3 DAWs or digital audio workstations, and they can be free ones. You don't have to pay for it, but find the one that you identify with, the one that really works for you. And it doesn't matter. It could be one that everybody says that's the crappiest program. If it works for you, then it's the best program for you. Stick with that program, master that program, figure out how to do every little thing in it, and you're going to be way better off than if you went with some other program you didn't like because some guy on a forum somewhere says you got to download this DAW. It's the best, hands down. Nothing else exists. So just like the advice is pick one program, the one that works best for you, and stick with it. And you're going to create great music just because you know how to use the program. That's one of the biggest things, is figuring out the tech, which is why I came up with the channel, is to get over the tech so you can create the music. You don't want the tech to interfere with the music creation. So if you master that program, you've gotten over the tech, and it's no longer about the tech. Now it's just about making music.
That is excellent piece of advice right there. Yes, I think that's actually really good advice. Download a few of them, especially now, like you're saying, there's free ones out there you could get.
Yeah,
like
and they're great.
Traction is waveform now. So
waveform,
Cakewalk. That's the next one I was thinking about. And then I know you can get Reaper for really inexpensive if you want Reaper, the official. You could try it out. Yeah. Kind of technically and definitely, right?
Yeah.
But
it is one I recommend. I usually recommend to people to get try Cakewalk, try Waveform, try Reaper. There's another one called SoundBridge, which is pretty interesting. It's another completely unlimited free DAW. And try those out. Which one works for you? Then just go with that. And the skills you learn on those are going to translate into another program. So if you do eventually grow out of that program, want to try something else, the skills you learned in that program are going to translate into the next program as well.
Right. Is there any new projects that you have coming up that you want to share or anything? Like, what do you got planned for the future?
Just continuing to make the videos on YouTube, of course. So nothing really new. I'm going to be doing probably a whole series, like smaller videos on using the free DAWs, like Cakewalk. I have a series planned for that, and for Waveform as well. I do have videos already, but a lot of them are bigger videos with like everything in one. So I'm kind of going to structure it more like a course. It's going to be free on YouTube, but it's going to be in just smaller sections. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Music wise, getting this EP released this next week is the big goal right there. And then starting to record the next. I just want to get into the next project because I have so many songs, new songs that I've written and older songs that have been written for a while that I just need to get out. Just need to get it out of my head into the computer, record it as a song so other people can hear what I'm hearing in my head.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So it's been a pleasure having you on the show today, man. I think it's great what you're doing with your YouTube channel, and you're just helping a ton of people, adding tons of value out there. If you're listening or watching this now, I will leave a link in the description of this podcast or YouTube video. Check out Simple Green Tech. He's got a ton of awesome, music production videos that are high quality, like really well done. If you want to learn, go ahead and check him out. And there's a variety of stuff over there. So make sure you do, like, maybe run a search. There's ways to search for videos and stuff, or just look at his videos. He's got a lot of stuff over there, and subscribe to his channel. So yeah, I appreciate you being on the show. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off here?
No, not really. I just really appreciate you having me on here. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I always love chatting about music, and usually we chat through text about music. So it's been great chatting face to face. Yeah,
man. I'm glad to have you on, man. It's good talking to you. So, hey, if you're watching or listening to this, I appreciate you for listening and watching. Continue to create music. Don't let technology stop you. That's why me and Simple Green Tech have our YouTube channels to help you out with the technology. So continue creating music, guys. Thanks for listening.